lifestyle, you know, flower child type of approach. And I came from the East Coast, heavy politico, you know, kind of thing. And serious was not the word at that point that I would have used to describe Lori. But, you know, the thing about the campaign and bringing us together is that we all made a commitment at that time to be in it for the long haul, and you get serious very quickly when that's the case. And it really helps you to navigate through a lot of the stuff, I'm using a nice word, the stuff in the movement, you know, the separatism or the self-indulgence or the, you know, the domination that can happen in a movement. And, you know, we all really fought together to, you know, to move together and be accountable. I walked my dogs in a cemetery, and I came across, right shortly before coming here, I came across a gravestone that said, "May the work I've done speak for me." And I thought, you know, when we put together that obituary for Lori, we were looking at that work spoke for Lori, it spoke for who she was, and we were trying to bring out the impact and how many lives she changed for the work that she did over 44 years. So, you know, we think of her with her serious face, with her clipboard, with her video camera, and I find it quite funny, really, that we couldn't even get the video camera going without Lori this time. So we all need to be stepping it up. This is a call to clipboards, a call to getting ourselves together, and to try to fill the huge gap that Lori is leaving in our ranks. Thank you.
Thank you, Phoebe. Next, I'd like to invite up Terry Collins. Terry's with KPOO Radio. He has us quite regularly on his show, and he's also an ex-Black Panther.
I hope it makes sense, because it's hard to go behind people like you, like especially Pierre. He's okay. So I hope it makes sense. But Lori, I met Lori, I can't remember how long it was, but Lori was always someone who was so, I mean, it's hard to say. It's like I knew her all my life. And the last time she took me home from a demonstration, and I said, "You want to take me? I can catch the, you know, the 31." She said, "No, I'll take you home." So with her in the car, she had another brother. So I told her, because I was like, she said, "You know, Selma James, I want to interview Selma James, but I'm shy, I'm scared, I don't want to, I don't know." Then after the brother got out, I said, "That's her son." I said, "Oh." So one of the things, it's hard for me because I'm considered old. I'm 81 years old. When somebody that young, for example, leaves us, it really burdens me. About a month ago, I had another friend, about 65, Damira Ahmad. I knew her since she was about 16. So it really bothers me. When I first heard about, I talked to Rachel, I said, "This right here, this helps me to handle." And so I hope I make sense, because we lost a giant. We lost a hell of a woman, a giant. We lost her. But the thing is she still lives, because now I think I will talk to Selma James and talk about Lori, because I've been afraid to talk to her because I'm shy. I'm shy, you know what I mean? I'm afraid to talk to her. So I mean, Lori was so inspirational. I mean, one of the things, you talk about Haiti. I know she talked about Haiti. I know she had Haiti a lot on her mind. But I'm going to say this, and hopefully, because I feel it's necessary, that a lot of us, for example, like people like Lori, needed to take a break. You know what I mean? There's a period of our time when we feel that we're doing so much work, we got to just go somewhere and just for a month and just not do nothing, but just look at the ocean and look at the mountain or something, because she dedicated her life to all of us. And she had a day job, worked in the daytime and did all that stuff at night. So it's a fantastic woman, and like I said, I hope I make sense. And but all of you who come up here made, you know, spoke so well of Laurie.
Okay, next we're inviting up Sarah Williams, who's an ex-partner of Laurie, and has come all the way from Spain with the global women's strike.
Thank you. Hi there. I'm wearing my Laurie top today. I scrounged it off her when I was here last, almost 12 years ago in San Francisco. Had a wonderful time, the times that I spent here with Laurie. Right. I'm going to start by reading a message from our sisters in Peru. Dear sisters, through you we send our deepest condolences to her family and to all of you after the death of our sister Laurie. It is a moment of pain and sadness. She gave her best to the struggle and also to us. It's difficult to accept her passing. I put myself in your situation and I feel very fragile. I begin to cry. Laurie helped me a lot with my health. We must have courage and strength. I had the opportunity to know her and I will always remember her with much love. A big hug for everyone. This is from Le de Mozambique in Peru, an indigenous woman in Peru, from the Federación Sindical de Trabajadoras y Trabajadores del Hogar de Perú, from the trade union of domestic workers in Peru. As I said earlier, I came here today. I came here because I needed to be with the people who loved Laurie and the people Laurie loved. We met in the 80s at a Wages for Housework conference in London, and I was struck by how much I enjoyed her company, her warmth, her fun, her political passion, and her infectious giggle. One of our biggest connections was our endless conversations about what was going on in the movement. In spite of the fact that we lived in different continents, a couple of decades after first meeting, we did finally get together and begin to have a relationship. Now, those conversations were really, I think, the fire in the belly of the relationship. Because, as you guys know, Laurie just loved to talk about movement stuff. And so she was endlessly curious and interested about what was going on in Spain, what was going on in Barcelona, the work we were doing in Venezuela, the work we were doing internationally with Peru and with many places. She was a very international person. In spite of living in a country where there is massive censorship about what's going on in the rest of the world, Laurie was wanted to be very, very connected to the international and worked hard to be. We used to have these really long conversations on the phone, and they would last 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. I think our record was one that lasted 9 hours, which I can't imagine how we afforded it, but I knew we used to run down and buy these little cards which would give us a cheaper rate on the phone. But for 9 hours, we just chatted, just talked about what she was doing, what I was doing, what was happening, what we felt about it, strategies, what might work, what wouldn't work, experiences, exchanging ideas. And that time was really precious because it's really enriching to a relationship to have that kind of input and to be able to share that. She was someone who would just grab a banner and make a placard one moment to the next and be out there on the streets if that was what was needed. And I was always really impressed by that. She was just up for it, always. She was so clear, you know, that the fact that she had been in the 60s movements, and just from the moment, you know, she was an autonomous person to her dying day, that was her passion, was to be resisting the brutality in this world. And it really is quite incredible when you think about how caring and sensitive and compassionate she was, when you see how brutal the world can be. You know, her standards were really quite striking. I remember, you know, when you talk to Laurie, this is such a great photo, because when you talk to Laurie, that's how she would look at you. And she would look at you because she was learning from you, and she also had a homeopathic view of you. So when you'd be talking, she was listening to you. She was extremely sympathetic, which helped you to open up about all sorts of crap, which is better to get out there so you can deal with it than to try and hide it, after all. But she would be working out whilst she was listening to you as to what was needed, where to take the thing on, you know, whether it was with homeopathy or whether it was with movement stuff. She was courageous and determined and hardworking. And she channeled her compassion into the struggle, into her organizing. She made a great contribution to the world and to making the world a better place. And she can be proud of the work that she did, because she really made a difference. Now, I'd like to briefly mention someone who was very important to her, which was her boy, the boy in her life. 22 years she lived with Cupid, the cat. And he was a very important part of her life. When he died in 2009, she wrote, "He had a good life. He had the freedom to come and go as he chose. He chased rats, and he was in charge of me." And when I read that, I remembered that 10 to 15 years earlier than that, I'd been in London at a conference, and I'd been in a restaurant, and she was chatting to people, and I was overhearing a conversation. And she was talking about how when she had arrived in London, she'd opened her suitcase to find this disgusting smell. Because Cupid had that habit of, he didn't like her going away, so he'd get in the suitcase and pee on it. So she'd arrive, and all of her clothes. So I think, yeah, she was right. He was really trying to be in charge of her. I think that Laurie these last few weeks has been raging, just like we have. She's been in a rage and been furious that she's left us too soon. It's a traumatic loss for her, for us, and for the movement. Personally, I'd been really looking forward to introducing her to my two small children, Sammy and Isma. I haven't been able to travel for many years because of problems with their immigration and their papers and their passports and all sort of shit. And I couldn't come this year, and I was thinking of coming next year. And I was so looking forward to them meeting Laurie and Laurie meeting them. And I was really looking forward to going off to the Redwoods and to walk around Stowe Lake. And I'm heartbroken for the future that I've lost. But also, I was thinking about the words of my homeopathic vet, because I've got two dogs as well. Anyway, a lovely Argentinian woman, because my mother passed away last year. And my vet wrote to me an email, and she said, "I'm so sorry to hear about your mum. I hope the pain of her absence gradually transforms into the tenderness of the memory of beautiful times shared. And I look forward to when I can think of Laurie and when I can look at this photo and be filled with the warmth of her love. She really did love us, all of us. And then I'll be able to look at that photo and smile and think about all the fun we had and how lucky I was and how we all have been to have been the friend and the sister of such a beautiful person, a strikingly beautiful person. You too will also always have a special place in my heart. And thank you for letting me come here and share this with you, because because it's really difficult to get through this loss. But being here with you guys just really is helping. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Next, I wanted to invite up Nikki and her beautiful daughter, who helped us, when we first got involved in Omni. It's quite a process you have to go through. And Nikki really helped us get through that process. So thanks, Nikki.
Hello. My name is Nikki, and I used to organize here at Omni. I've been away for about a year. I had a baby who's here. You probably have heard her. So I first met Lori several years ago, actually in a space that I organized with in downtown Oakland, called the Bay Area Public School. It's a free school, and we shared a space with Pseudo Room, which is another collective here at the Omni. And we had an event at the public school. Selma James came and spoke, and that was the first place where I met Lori, and we kept in touch over the next few years. And then about 2 years ago, Lori contacted me mentioning that Global Women's Strike might be interested in becoming a member collective here at the Omni. And really, this was the moment for me when I felt like Omni would be okay. Because here was a woman who had truly committed herself to living her values, who understood the challenges of collectivity, which was something that the Omni still struggles with, and she never batted an eyelash at those challenges, and who brought with her a really liberatory, inclusive, anti-racist, radically feminist vision and daily practice. Lori modeled for me the kind of radical spirit I wanted to believe was possible, filled with love, wisdom, and compassion. When I had my daughter about a year ago, I found myself really struggling with what I like to jokingly refer to as my new domestic practice. So suddenly I was doing all of these things that felt very unfeminist to me, and I felt a lot of shame and anger, and it was very curious to me that this was all coming up, despite the fact that intellectually I understood that domestic and affective labor is work. And it was really Lori and Rachel and the Global Women's Strike that helped to kind of keep me from going too far into that place. I remember really vividly when this was a bookstore, them hanging a banner in here for an event that said, "Every mother is a working mother." And I thought of that often. It was very helpful to me. And it was Lori and Rachel's presence in my life that really helped me to confront the patriarchal devaluation of affective and domestic labor that was so deeply internalized within me. And who showed me that radical feminism is not a rejection of love or of care work, of all the things that are associated with women and stripped of their value within this racist, heteronormative, sexist, ageist, patriarchal culture. But rather that radical feminism points towards a different form of life in which care and love and community are understood to be the most valuable, the most powerful, and most abundant gifts we have. So thank you, Lori, for your commitment to love and for your incredible generosity of spirit. And I'm really grateful to have had the opportunity to know her and to love her as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki, and we want wages for all that hard work. Next is Sydney Ross Risdon, who's with the Global Women's Strike in Los Angeles.
Thanks, Rachel, and thank you everybody who's here today, because it's so comforting to be able to be together with you all. Everybody here shares a connection with Lori, and she and I used to laugh at connections that we shared. We share the same birthday. We both worked as nurses. We both were sisters in the global women's strike for over 40 years. And we were friends. Lori was not only a warm and loving friend, but she was a fierce fighter for what she thought was right, for a more caring and a just world. She was a moving speaker. She was an organizer. And she was also one of those people, along with Rachel, who do the not so often visible infrastructure work that makes it possible for political work to continue. And she was very helpful to me because she wasn't afraid of equipment. She wasn't afraid of computers. Sam Weinstein from Payday Men's Network wrote about Lori that she had an abiding interest in computers and technology and in using it for the movement. And that meant in May, when we were having an open house in solidarity with mothers and children in prison and detention, and all of a sudden I had to use the projector and it wouldn't work, I could call Lori and I could say, "Lori, it's not working." And Lori was calm, Lori would laugh, Lori helped me get all the pieces together and the adapter and blah, blah, you know, all of that stuff, and get it to work so that I was able to take it. And so I just wanted to mention, you know, not only was she a great street fighter, but she was a great movement builder on a lot of different levels. I have a lot of memories of Lori. One of them has to do with when the Global Women's Strike sent a delegation to the World Social Forum in Caracas in 2006. And we went to visit a clinic in a barrio on a hillside and met with one of the staff of one of these clinics that was set up by the Bolivarian Revolution. And the doctor and the nurse there showed us how to make a piece of equipment that little children with asthma need. And they made it out of empty, clear water bottles, plastic water bottles. And Lori was just thrilled, you know, to see what kind of things were possible like that. And many people have spoken about Lori's skills and compassion as a healer. And I just wanted to share with you that the nurses from her work today, before she retired from Kaiser, 7 of them came in their scrubs in their lunch hour. They couldn't come here because they had to go back to work, but to say goodbye to Lori. And they came in their scrubs because one of them hadn't known and hadn't brought clothes. So they all decided to come in scrubs so that the one person wouldn't feel left out. And one of them said to me, but that's what Lori would have wanted, you know? And it was great that they were there. Linda Brewer, who's a black grandmother in Los Angeles, wrote to us about how Lori used to call her at midnight when she was struggling with pneumonia and Lori was treating her, to make sure in the middle of the night that she was all right, and how much that meant to her. And I think a lot of people think of like movement work over here and healing work over here, and like they don't go together. But for Lori, being a strong and skilled and compassionate nurse and homeopath, and being a strong and fierce and compassionate fighter for a world that doesn't want to kill people with smog and make people sick, was one struggle, and she was very integrated. And I think that that integration made her stronger in both parts of her life. I'm very glad about a year ago I was able to come up to San Francisco to help with some Us Pros work, and I stayed with Lori. And we talked politics, and we watched the news, and we read mystery stories, and we did a lot of political work. And we also sat out in her backyard and watched the sunset and listened to the birds. And I'm very grateful to have had that time. And I know that everybody here is grieving and missing Lori, but I also have a very strong sense that she is going to stay with us and help push the movement forward.
Next, I'd like to bring up Anne Blumenthal. Anne is an alternative practitioner and has been, does Alexander work, and she was Laurie's Alexander teacher, and she's mine. And thank you, Anne, for all the work you do on our bodies. So, come up. I know you have to leave.
Thanks. Thank you, Rachel. I think it's late 80s when Rachel, you and Lori started having lessons. So I feel like we've grown up together. After Rachel called me with this very shocking news, you know how in your grief you just kind of reach out into the dark, you know, like who can I reach to? And I was thinking of all the people that Lori would ask me every week about, you know, like, well, how's Adele doing, and how's your daughter doing, and how's your mom doing, and did you remember to give him this and that, you know, and she was checking in on all the people in my life, not to mention all the emotional states of my life, but and I called a couple of friends and I said, you know, I have this terrible news to tell you, and they didn't know her. In other words, she knew them. She was healing people not only who she knew intimately, but people who didn't know her. And I just needed to share that, like, you know, how broad the sphere was for her. You know, when Rachel and Lori came to see me as an Alexander teacher, I was really struck because they didn't come just, you know, like most students, you know, I've got this problem and I don't really understand what this thing is. It's very esoteric, you know, tell me about it. Maybe it'll be interesting, maybe it won't. They came saying, this is part of our politic. This is part of the movement for us. And I was like, okay, you're in it for life now. I mean, like, you're going to be friends of mine for life, right? Because who says that to me? Nobody says that to me. And you know, for me, it's like none of the work is because of what it looks like it's about. We're all about freeing the neck. Well, it's like really not that interesting to free the neck, but it's really interesting that we don't know how to do that. And what does that say about the way we are in the world? And the unconsciousness with which we guide ourselves in the world, and their desire to study the work was about that commitment to consciousness and the understanding that politics are not something that you do, it's something that you be. And if it's not happening within you, it can't really reliably happen outside of you. So, you know, I'm so grateful for that. Really once in a lifetime kind of entry. And I also am a choreographer. That's actually what most people know me as. And my artwork has been also really influenced. I feel like I studied homeopathy with Laura, and we're really interested in the parallels between that work and the Alexander work, and also in the choreography. When I became a mother, I had to make a dance about the breast, because my life was all about the breast, right? Who is the mommy who's here just spoke, yeah. And so you know, she was really part of that piece because it was all about women's labor and about milk and what does it mean and what is the meaning of breast in life. And so I feel like she's, you know, immortalized in my choreography as well as in my art. really what I have written on this paper isn't any of that. But something special happened to me last night. Lori visited me, for real. Lori visited me. For anybody who knows me, I'm not the kind of person that gets visitations. I'm like not that fortunate a kind of person, although I have begged for them, I've wanted them, I've urgently pleaded for them, but this came totally by surprise. It wasn't a dream, it was that she was there, and it took my breath away. It stopped me in my tracks to realize it was her actual presence, and I understood, and she was just standing there matter-of-factly with a little half smile, and I stumbled around for sure for a minute, not saying anything coherent, and then I just looked at her and I said, well, can I hug you? And she said, of course, and because I didn't know if it was okay to hug someone from the other side, and I did, and that's all I remember about this visit. And I didn't remember it immediately on waking up, but I remembered it as I was going through my morning, and I just had this like, oh my God, thank you so much for coming to me. And I was trying to figure out, well, why? Was it because of today that she was just on my mind so strongly that she came, or what was it? And then what I pondered about the blessing, of course I first thought it was just her reassuring presence, that her appearance sort of softened the shock of her sudden and abrupt absence, and this like huge mystery and bewilderment of such an utter severing of connection to her earthly being. Thank you for that, Lori. But as I sat with it more, it was another layer, and I like to think that she was showing up as she always did whenever there was a trauma or an illness or a problem to combat or to help figure it out, because she was always figuring it out, as was I, and I loved that. We loved that about each other. But I had just returned that night from a week of sitting by my mother's bedside, and I'm sure that she was partly there for that reason also, like some kind of divine reassurance that nothing is ever really severed, and that what we felt between us in earthly form was real and eternal and can't be severed and can't vanish, not really, not in the ways that really count. Lori was an extremely devoted Alexander student. She was hungry and learning all the time, and was, although it didn't save her life, she was able to use it in remarkably to control and work with breathing in a way that I've never seen. And I've no doubt that, though I have no idea what she knew and didn't know in those moments, that she was figuring it out all the way, and is still figuring it out, and is keenly interested in what happened all the way to the other side. I'm certain of it. This sort of student-teacher bond is a really private one, and although we participated in each other's work in a very intimate way, it was not a public participation, and so the loss has been a very private one. And I'm grateful to be able to join with you all to bring that private intimacy a little bit into community that I've mostly known through her. So I'm happy to be seeing you. I know her devotion to the campaign was both all-consuming and cellular. I mean, it was intrinsic to her DNA, and her heart was so open and so huge. Her healing self, her political self, like everyone is saying, were intricately tied. They came from and were nourished by the same fountain of love and passion, and that love and passion emanated from her every move. We are all the humble and blessed recipients and beneficiaries of that. I know I was, and I will be forever grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Charlie. Are you able to come up here? Yeah. Charlie Hinton, who developed a friendship with Lori in the movement and is from Haiti Action Committee. You want to get up or stay down there?
Let's see, I got to use the left foot to get up. Hi, everybody.
Well, first, my solidarity with Global Women's Strike. I know what a shock it was for me, and I'm sure it's just devastating for you all, so hang in there. Well, I found out today that Lori and I were both at White Night Riot in 1978. It's when I decided to learn how to see without glasses. I worked mainly with Lori. We were neighbors, we were friends. She loaned me her car. But around the Chelsea Manning campaign, it was a wonderful campaign that when the Pride, San Francisco LGBT Pride Board refused to accept Bradley, at that time now Chelsea Manning, as a Grand Marshal, many of us rose up, and it really reunited many aspects of the gay and lesbian LGBT left in San Francisco. And we had a wonderful campaign. We organized 1,000 people to participate in our contingent, and then we were named best contingent in the parade. So it was really sweet revenge. And one thing I really remember about Lori was just her common sense and her down-to-earth quality and her pragmatism of just really focusing on getting things done. And the other aspect we worked together around was the prison movement. That twice we drove to Sacramento together for the hearings on solitary confinement that the Joint Legislative Committee had. And she was very, always interested in the work with prisoners also. So I won't go on, but I thank you for inviting me, and thank everybody for coming, and long live Lori. I just will miss her very much.
Next, I'd like to invite up Sylvia Sally. Sylvia was in the Wages for Housework campaign here in San Francisco for years, since its inception, and then moved to London, England, and is with women of color in the Global Women's Strike.
Okay. Yeah. Nina asked me if I could read the statements from women of color in our network. And I said I didn't think I could, because I'm quite upset. But I'm in the back of the room, and I took a walk outside. All I can hear is Lori saying, "Woman, if it isn't you, who is it?" Pull yourself together, you wuss. So I'm going to give it a go. This is from Margaret, who is the coordinator of Women of Color in the Global Women's Strike. She lives in Los Angeles and couldn't be with us today. I associate first the Wages for Housework campaign and later the Global Women's Strike with Lori, because she was part of Wages for Housework campaign before I was, and what I knew about the campaign on the West Coast always included Lori. Lori was there at practically all major occasions for our corner of the movement. She was there quietly working, doing what needed to be done. When Lori spoke publicly, all took notice. She had a quiet empathy and brilliance that drew others to her message. She was reliable and principled. Lori knew her place was in the movement and organized her life to ensure that she would always have a political life. Just doing excerpts, because it's quite long. Lori was deeply anti-racist. One only needed to be around Lori, work with Lori, to know her anti-racism as something deeply connected to her own sense of justice and freedom. From the support she offered to the Black Coalition fighting back serial murders, as we campaigned for justice and police accountability in the serial murders of Black women in South LA, to her always being there ready to do what's needed for Haiti, to gathering much needed facts and figures on welfare and poverty in the US for the Welfare and Caregiving Working Group. Lori understood that the movement needed her just as she needed the movement. Lori always steadfast, mostly patient, always kind, always ready to be accountable to get the job done, to schlep down to LA to help us out when she could. Once she decided on a path, Lori did not sway. Thank you, Laurie, for all that you've given us, all that you have taught us. Laurie Nairne, presente. And this is from the women from the UK, women in color of the Global Women's Strike in UK. Laurie was a precious political sister, personifying the best of the 1960s movement, deeply anti-racist, anti-war, not conforming to the mainstream, and committed to carrying alternatives and the movement for change. With other homeopathic practitioners in the Women's Center Network, Laurie helped bring together information on innovative, low-cost process for treating trauma and genocide victims with homeopathy, helping a number of refugee women in the All Africa Women's Group in London on their road to recovery. Across borders and nations, we cherish Laurie and hold her close in our thoughts and hearts. And personally, I want to say something. Anne said that Laurie visited her last night. I'm staying with Anne, and she visited me as well. And, you know, I was just telling Anne, she was just there, and she said, this is deep, D-E-E-P, because that's what Laurie always said, things were deep. And I just looked at her, and she said, don't worry, it's going to be all right. And I've been listening to everybody speak about, you know, Laurie's political organizing, and I was there. I was there. I was there too. I came to San Francisco at 21, ran away from Seattle on a holiday. And I met Laurie about 3 days after I had arrived. And we became very good friends right away. And she and another woman had started the Wages for Housework campaign a few years before in San Francisco. And they're like, yeah, come along to this. I said, no, I'm not political. I don't get into that. No, don't like those groups. No, come on, come along. Okay, I'll come along. And the next thing I knew, they had me doing street theater on the steps of City Hall. And from then I was co-opted and was with the Wages for Housework campaign and the Global Women's Strike ever since. I've known Laurie for 40 years. She's been such a good friend. Politically, personally, she was there when Rachel and I decided, Rachel was my partner, when we decided to have a baby. She said, come on then, over to Berkeley Sperm Bank, let's go. Then she would schlep samples back and forth in the dry ice. Come on, feet up on the wall, got to be there a half hour. When the baby was born, I was in labor, started labor. She was there. She was one of my birthing mothers, and I didn't have such a good time. And after 36 hours, I thought, I'm going to die. This does not happen. And she said, yeah, you wish you were going to die, but you're not. And we had a lovely little boy that she had helped raise, which was lovely. I was, as so many people have said, one thing about Laurie, and she'd always say, you know, this family shit is shit. You know, you got a mom, you got a dad, you got brothers and sisters, but what? You know, and she said, your family is who you make it. And the Wages for Housework campaign, the Global Women's Strike, was Laurie's family. We've been her family forever since she was 25. And same with me, since I was 21, you get out of that terrible teenage years and you're just growing and exploring. And it was wonderful to have Laurie being one of my teachers.
Thanks, Sylvia. Gary Pack? No? You don't want to say anything? Okay, Gary. No, Gary's part of our alternative healing network. He was a doctor, and then he got fed up with being a doctor and feeling he couldn't do anything. And so he started studying alternative healing, and he's such a resource. He is somebody we call up every time, you know, we need information about an herb. He's just an incredible, full of information, and he's a co-worker at Rainbow Grocery, and he's put up an incredible, all the research that he's been collecting for the last 20 years, 40, 30 years, he's put up on Rainbow's website. So, you know, if you have some ailment and you need some alternative, you know, herbs, or you want to find out about something, Gary developed this incredible resource on Rainbow Grocery's webpage. So, you know, if you need to look up there, take a look. Next, Marianne. You had a short, just a few words you said you wanted to. Marianne is with the Chiapas support group and also part of the Omni.
Thank you. I first crossed paths with Lori around the Zapatista movement, which I've been involved in ever since 1994. And I met her early on, and our paths would cross from time to time. And it was always like a real pleasure to be with her. Then our collective joined the Omni and became one of the Omni collectives. And once again, I crossed paths with Lori. And she kind of welcomed me and sort of helped me through the process of trying to figure out what was going on at the Omni. And got me through some of the meetings that, you know, they can kind of drag on a little bit. And Lori and I would sit there and giggle and laugh and say funny things to each other. But it wasn't all fun, and life is not all fun. And I had a serious illness this summer, and the first person at my house, the minute she found out, was Lori, with her homeopathic medicine and her listening and kind words and lots of support, and talk about social justice and about women and everything. I know Lori as a social fighter, someone who cares very deeply about issues of social justice. I related to her on that level. I truly loved and respected her. And I can't really say too much more right now. It's sort of hard for me. But I'm very, very thankful that I knew her. I think I'm a better person for having known her. And I think what we all have to do is just struggle a little bit harder to make up for her not being here. Thank you.
Phoebe said that we got the obituary that you all have got printed in the Bayview. And, you know, we've had a long relationship with Mary Radcliffe, who writes, you know, for the Bayview and puts all the material together. And she put at the top, she leaves love in her wake. And there's a picture of the Omni Collective and a lovely picture of Lori in the Bayview. So we're thrilled about that. Next, I wanted to introduce Cindy Chang. Cindy's also part of the Alternative Healing Network that we work closely with.
Thank you.
Take a nice breath with me. It's been a lot taking in all of this today. And as I look around this room and also to see the faces that I have not seen for so long, you know, I realize how much of an impact Lori has made on my life in terms of a healer, friend, and the person I could always go to, nurse, nurse. And so it's with a tender heart that I share with you how Laurie has inspired me and my life. One of the first things that I remember from Laurie, she had already passed her homeopathy and got her license already. And I was traveling to India, so of course, I talked to Laurie, and she put together my own personal homeopathic kit that I took with me to take care of any problems with digestive problems or anything. So, and even to this day, I still have my homeopathy kit that I periodically have to replenish with the things that I've used up. And Laurie and I shared an office, and I'm not sure what the years were, but she was always my go-to person. Nurse, 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 whenever I had something going on. And another time in the early, I think probably 2000 and something, I would have very bad hives and things. So Laurie would take the time to do a really in-depth, and it would take a week, and I go, why would it take you that long? But it's because she had to go home and go through all her books to figure out what was going on with me, because the layers, as Laurie would say, it's deep. And, for her to figure out really what was going on, there were so many layers. And another time, I had been in the dog park with my puppy, and I had never fractured anything before. So when I fractured my wrist and broke the radius and ulna, first thing I go is, Laurie was working then at Kaiser French. So I drive in there and have to ring the doorbell, and it's on a weekend. And I go, Laurie, how come my wrist is like this? And then she says, I think you should go to the ER. Really? You think I should go to the ER? Okay, I guess I'll do that. And so I got back into my car and drove up to St. Mary's Hospital. I had already been, close to the area, but it didn't occur to me to go to the ER. I had to go find the nurse first. So I had to go find Laurie. So now that I don't have Laurie with me all the time, I guess I'm going to have to channel her somehow, so which means that I'll have to do more work myself on doing a meditative practice. And part of Laurie being an activist is how I got in touch with the campaign. And as I look back, I mean, there are many memories. And then I also met Margaret separately through work in studying shamanism. So we're so deeply connected. So this tapestry here, as I look across to see all of you, is so rich and has so many different parts of my life. So I think at this point, my commitment is to stay in touch with Rachel and recommit to doing some work again with the campaign, because I've lost touch. And I think one of the things I can thank Laurie for is bringing me back in touch with you and some others of you here in the campaign and some other friends that I've kind of lost touch with. And I want to thank Laurie for helping my life. And part of the activism that I learned from Laurie also was the cooking. And so for carbs, one of the things that Laurie would do would be cauliflower. And instead of having carbs, she could use cauliflower. She would just, in her kitchen, would just cut up cauliflower. And, as I, look back on all these different things, it's such, I think, I didn't realize how much of an impact until now she's not here. So I look to the rest of you here to say, recommit yourself to whatever you're passionate about, and we'll celebrate Laurie's life by carrying on. And so thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Cindy. Next, I'd like to invite Joey Kane. Joey was the instigator of the Chelsea Manning ruckus when he proposed Chelsea Manning be a Grand Marshal on the, at San Francisco Pride, and the whole thing exploded. And the movement really came up in a way that the LGBT movement hadn't been up since Stonewall, and it was like a reoccurrence of Stonewall. It was really exciting times, not quite. But, you know, to see 200 or 300, 400 people at protests was fantastic. Joey?
Thank you. Yeah, actually, it was at a meeting in my living room that I think I met you, and I met Lori and a bunch of people. It was really a case of people from a lot of different political worlds coming together suddenly in a living room. And Lori was her usual kind of grounded, you know, just grounded. She made sense. We obviously had a room full of people, many of whom had a lot of different agendas. And again, Lori helped it stay focused. And we actually had 3,000 people marching in the parade that year. Charlie had said 1,000, but it was 3,000. And we did honor Chelsea Manning, and we did, I've been told by the people who were really working, I can't remember the name of the organization that was really working for Chelsea Manning. Who was it? Does anyone remember? Well, they said that it was the actions of what we did in San Francisco that caused the Chelsea's case to be remembered and to go even farther than what it had done. So, you know, Lori was an integral part of that. She also, turns out, was a neighbor of mine. And I would ride my bike home from Rainbow. I, too, work at Rainbow. It's where old leftists go to get a job to make enough money to retire. And I would be riding my bike home around 10:30 at night, and I would run into Lori, who was just going to or leaving a corner store. And it was always wonderful to run into her. We always said, oh, let's get together for dinner, and let's get together for dinner. We never quite did that. But I'm really glad I had the chance to work with her. She really was, for me, a mentor or a model of how you can be involved in the left and not be crazy and be able to work with a lot of different people and not lose your mind. So that's it. And really thank you also, Rachel, and the folks who put this together in such a short notice.
Okay, we're going to have an open mic now, and I'm sure lots of you have lots to say about Lori. So, anybody who wants to come up? Nancy, we know Nancy from years ago when you were in KPFA radio show, and Nancy used to have us on her show when we were the Wages for Housework campaign.
Right, yeah. When my friend Jane told me that Lori had passed, and that just started me thinking about, oh my gosh, how long all it has been. And I had, before I was doing a radio program, I had gone to answer phones at KPFA and became a cleaner there. With another woman, we were cleaning. And that then, Nava Mizrahi, who's with Max Darshu, she had invited me to join something called Household Workers' Rights. And Household Workers' Rights then got me to an event, I think that Rachel and Lori and I think Margaret was involved in, and where you had come from England, and we're talking about the nurses' strike in England in a hospital, and it was connected with prostitutes, also supporting prostitutes, way back then in the early 80s. And I was going, wow. And it was at a time where there was still some separation on both sides of the bay, and also both with lesbians and gays, that was starting to come together, but this was part of that, I think. And what happened then is, as time evolved, the wages for housework, oh, that was the other thing, is that this idea of women taking time out from their lives, whether it was at a paid job or it was an unpaid job at home, that there'd be a day off, and that women you know, it was being suggested, first of all, here, but that was really suggested for the whole world, to take the time off for us to brainstorm, for us to relax, for us not to always be on call with the next thing and the next thing. And it was such a revolutionary idea, even at that time. And it has continued. And then I heard from either Rachel or Lori that they were going to be involved with the International Year of the Woman. And I think the one already in the Scandinavian country had happened. I can't remember if Mexico had happened, but you were preparing. I do remember that you came on and talked about preparing to go to Nairobi. And at that time, the women's movement was so white. And so Rachel and Lori were talking about, they were going to Nairobi, where there would be a lot of women who couldn't come to these other gatherings across the world, but could get to Nairobi, and that where it could be talked about all the work that women do for nothing, like women carrying water, you know, for hours, and never recognized. And then they were preparing to go to the UN to the gathering of women in Beijing. And again, they came on the air. And then meanwhile, there'd be other organizing that they were doing. But what moved me was that they were they were working with the prostitutes in San Francisco. And they were talking about the fact that their lives deserve to be respected, and they deserve to be safe, and that they deserve to know they have other opportunities if they want them, but to not be shamed. And all of this was very revolutionary as far as I was concerned. And I was really grateful that it could be something that could be on KPFA's air. And I guess for me, it just seemed like they were just going to be going on forever. And I think that they are. And I think that as I'm hearing, as I'm seeing, I'm just realizing how much Lori was already in tune with a wavelength that is what we're working toward, what our highest aspirations are. But she was living it all the time, and the incredible relationship that she had with Rachel, and the way that they were able to do their work that was so modest and so powerful at the same time, and so capable, and like without a lot of ego that one can see in a lot of other places. That's not what was happening there. It was just real, and it just went on, and I'm appreciating the fact that I know it's going to keep going on. Thanks.
I'd like to give special thanks to Rob, who Lori loves. Lori loves you, Rob. She would always talk about you, and he's been doing all the technology. It's great. He figured out how to put the slides on, all that technology. Are we live streaming? Yeah, we're live streaming. So yeah, we really thank you for all your work. It's wonderful what you've contributed to this event. What? Oh, do you want to say anything, Rob? No? Yeah, I was just going to say one more thing. We're going to be doing another memorial event for Lori, but it's going to be to benefit the Haiti the Haiti Emergency Relief Fund. And we think that is really right, because Lori's, heart was with Haiti, and she did a lot of work with Haiti and the Haiti Action Network. So we'll let you all know. And please sign the book at the back so that we have all your contact info, and we can let you know when the next piece is for Lori. Thanks. Oh, this is Sarah Calloway's. This is...
I have to add Sarah Calloway's. Oh, if you don't mind, I have to. My sister Sarah Calloway. I've been hearing about. Huh? Oh, I'm sorry. I've been hearing about Lori the last 20, 30 years. It seems like through my sister. Never met Lori, and all I've been hearing about is this great person, and now I see why. Sarah's been in London working with Global Women's Strike. Oh yeah, I saw her sister there. Where I don't see her yet. She's in one of those pictures. But anyway, I just have to add Sarah Calloway's name to the great to this great meeting of everyone. Sarah she'd never let me live it down if I didn't mention her here. Right? She's been bugging me about it. So Okay, thank you all very much. I'm 40-year retired registered nurse, by the way. I've been around the world twice, so all healthcare. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Laura Chandler, and Lori had many tribes, and it's really, really comforting to be here with everyone, sharing, kind of helping each other through our grief at the loss of her. And Lori was a colossal spirit and a colossal human being, and this loss is tremendous. Lori was, I met Lori 16 years ago through my partner who had known Lori for over 30 now. They had a healing collective together 30 years ago. And we remained close through that time. And I would say Lori, you know, I knew many of you through her stories and tales of her work. And I feel like Lori was my family, my friend and my family. We spent many holidays together and many birthdays together, and I liked to cook for Lori, and she liked to, we spent many dinners and had tea a lot. And so what I wanted to share with you is another part of her life. She was, my partner and I have a nonprofit organization called the Foundation of the Sacred Stream, and Lori was an important part of that. And she was on our board, and she taught there. And my partner Isa and I really encouraged her to teach. We wanted her to teach. We wanted her to share her knowledge. She was so humble, as so many people have said. And I talked to her about writing a book, because she really had so much information and so much knowledge. And just a couple of things I want to mention. And one is to Sarah's point about Cupid, her cat. I just want to add a story to that. After Cupid died, she became allergic to cats. And she said that it was Cupid making sure she never had another cat. Lori, we were teaching in Hawaii when Lori passed, and she had been intending to come with us to that, on that trip, and she canceled with us a few months ago. And, well, you know, I think she knew. He is checking in. And we have, and hello, there's something, that's great. So many of Lori's students were on the trip with us, and so we held circles for her every night. And what we realized, I think the important thing that we realized, you know, as so much that my partner and I wanted her to share her knowledge, and we just bugged her about that. You know, write a book, you know, teach classes, and she did teach classes. But then we realized she had imparted all of this information to all of us. So we have it, whether it's activism or homeopathy, parenting, whatever it is, Lori really left us with a legacy that we can share with each other. So to that end, we are starting a homeopathy group, kind of like a book club. And Corey, who was here earlier, is going to help lead that, one of the great homeopaths here in the Bay Area. And so just in her honor and to continue sharing that information, we're going to make that happen and open to ideas. And we're also going to hold a memorial at our foundation, which you're all welcome to come to and participate in. And that will be on November 11th at the Foundation of the Sacred Stream Center in Berkeley. So I'm going to be in touch with Rachel about that. And all of you, if you just want to get in touch with me, you can do that at sacredstream.org, info@sacredstream.org, and we'll let you know. But it will be on November 11th coming up. And it just gives us all some time to process this and come back together and celebrate her. And I'm really excited about that you're doing the fundraiser. It's just such an excellent way to honor her. And I just don't think we can have too many celebrations of her life because, as I said, she was so colossal. So I just want to thank Rachel and everyone who is involved in putting this together. This was not easy to do, and everyone is grieving. And I just, wish you all well and holding Lori in all our hearts.
Okay. Emily can introduce herself, but Emily, we work so closely with for International Women's Strike and then May Day.
Hello, everyone. I'm Emily. So I met Lori while we were organizing for the Oakland Women's Strike, which was just last March. And as did some of the people here. And we did it in a very short amount of time. And it very quickly started to seem like quite a daunting task. And I cannot tell you how relieved it made me to have Lori and Rachel at those meetings with us, with all of their knowledge and experience and representing Global Women's Strike. It was very strengthening. And in the days leading up to the event, I emailed with Lori, texted, was on the phone with her, and I was so grateful for her mentorship. And that's one thing I think is really important to point out in my experience in the short time that I knew her. She was such a wonderful mentor because she managed to sort of lift people up and give guidance and support without kind of pushing you out of the way if you didn't maybe know what you were doing. And I think that she understood that role, right, mentoring people, helping them grow, was an important way of building the movement. And she took that role, I think, seriously, because for some of us, it's not built into our upbringing to find mentors like that, and it can be quite difficult. And I think that she knew that, and so she was willing to play that role. And I learned so much from her. So I'm very grateful. Thank you, Lori.
Yeah, all this group here, we all worked together. And it was a great march that we all organized together in, 2 weeks? And how many people we had? Hundreds, thousands. It was huge. Yeah, 3 to 5. Anybody else want to come up? Sharon Lungo and her beautiful daughter.
Trying to keep it together. My name's Sharon Lungo. I'm from LA. My people are from Cuscatlán, El Salvador. Sorry, better. That's my daughter, Soraya Berta, named for Berta Cáceres. Yeah, everything that I wanted to say and was thinking, came out already in story and thought. you know, the beauty of who she was. And I was just sitting back there and basking in the beauty of parallels and the shared stories. I also met Lori as a member of the Global Women's Strike. I met the strike in 2000 when I was organizing in Los Angeles, and at that time Lori was part of the San Francisco family that would come down to Los Angeles, and then I came up here 10 years ago, and so, you know, we built a stronger relationship that way. And I too remember being in Venezuela with her. I remember being on a bus from Caracas to Los Teques and sitting down, and Lori was breaking down homeopathy to me. You know, I remember just kind of having my mind blown for a little while, you know, and how freely she shared her knowledge with me, you know, and she didn't know me that well, and but she was just really, you know, really willing to share who she was and the knowledge that she had, and to satisfy my curiosity that way. I remember having to get off that bus because there were too many of us and too much luggage, and having to trek up the mountain alongside of everybody else. Right? You know, the spirit of sisterhood that resonates so strongly in the strike. I remember when I met the strike as a unit, you know, thinking about this incredible family and network of sisterhood that existed all over the world. And the undying support that I witnessed all the sisters give each other. You know, and as kind of newer in the movement, you know, I felt like the strike really raised me. And taught me that, you know, our work was more than just about our politics. It's about taking care of each other and investing in our health and in our emotional well-being, and, you know, taking care of each other and uplifting each other's way of life, whatever that was. So yeah, I just want to echo everything that was said about Lori, you know, her unconditional love and support and willingness to share her healing ways with us. You know, I too, when I was pregnant and getting ready to have my child, remembering having a conversation actually with Lori and Sydney. You know, they were fortunately for myself in the same room, you know, and really helped me out in a situation where I was really scared, you know. And as political people, you know, we know and understand that we don't trust the system and that, you know, doctors and the system aren't always operating in our best interests, but sometimes you just need your comrades to remind you of that, you know, as grounded as we are in that knowledge and in that understanding. You know, sometimes our colleagues just reassuring us that we're doing the right thing, and, you know, that I wasn't hurting my child, that, you know, by letting her take her time and come here, that I was doing the right thing, despite what the doctors were trying to scare me and tell me otherwise. And even just a couple of weeks ago, I was crying around on Facebook because I had food poisoning, and there pops up a message from Lori saying, hey, you know, these remedies will work really good for that food poisoning. And come by because I want to see your daughter, you know. So, you know, I'm sad that I wasn't able to make that visit, you know, before she passed, but I talked to her in ceremony this weekend. I was fortunate to be in ceremony this weekend, and I said Lori's name, and this really incredible peace just came over me, and it felt like I didn't need to say much more. You know, like she was really well taken care of, and, you know, I just knew that, you know, Lori's one of our spirit helpers now, and, you know, appreciating all the spirits that helped her too, you know. That's how I see our healers, you know, they have spirit helpers that come and help them, and, you know, Lori had some powerful spirit helpers, you know, as witnessed by all the people that she helped and all the lives that she touched. So yeah, I'm really grateful for her legacy. You know, I'm really grateful for how you represented things, Sydney, as, you know, the integration of healing and politics and life, and just how all that came together in her walk of life. And the ripple effects of that, you know, all over in these generations now. You know, I think about work that my sister's involved in, the Healing Clinic Collective, you know, where they're offering healing work to people who don't have access to that. And I hear these stories about Lori, you know, and I say, well, you know, that's that legacy that's moving on, and people that laid that foundation for us that we didn't even know. Maybe, you know, a lot of people in the collective don't know about Lori, but, you know, her work is laid out ahead of all of us. So, you know, just thinking about her like that, and if it's okay, I wanted to offer a song for Lori. It's a song for Oshun, and it's a it's about women, and so thinking about her connection to Haiti and Guyana and all of our relatives there, I wanted to offer this song to her. So and hopefully my daughter will cooperate over there. ¿Vas a cantar? Okay. Mujeres de fuerza, hay mujeres de luz, mujeres de fuerza, hay mujeres de luz, son la fuerza de Oshun, son la fuerza de Oshun, son la fuerza de Oshun, la fuerza de Oshun. Esa fuerza la centra, esa fuerza le eleva, tenle fe esa fuerza. Llega la luz y se entrega la fuerza de Oshun, es la fuerza de Oshun, sos la fuerza de Oshun, la fuerza de Oshun. Ay, madre protectora, ay, Lori cuidadora, tenle siempre en la mente, la dulzura presente es la fuerza de Oshun, es la fuerza de Oshun, es la fuerza de Oshun, es la fuerza de Oshun. Hay mujeres de fuerza, hay mujeres de luz, hay Lori de fuerza, nuestra Lori de luz es la fuerza de Oshun, es la fuerza de Oshun, es la fuerza de Oshun, sos la fuerza de Oshun. Esa fuerza te eleva, esa fuerza te centra, ten la fuerza, fuerza, llega la luz y se entrega la fuerza de Oshun, la fuerza de Oshun, sos la fuerza de Oshun, sos la fuerza de Oshun. Ay, Lori protectora, ay, Lori cuidadora, tenemos siempre en la mente, la dulzura presente es la fuerza de Oshun, es la fuerza de Oshun, sos la fuerza de Oshun, sos la fuerza de Oshun. Vamos então. Tá, graças.
Thanks, Sharon. Yeah, I also wanted to thank Eric, who's in Payday Men's Network in Philadelphia, who's part of our bigger network. And he put together the slideshow. You know, we were sending him photos for days and days. Tons of photos we kept finding, having him add them in. And he came up with a beautiful slideshow. So thanks, Eric. Anybody else? Okay, I hope everybody signed the book. So we have your info. Go ahead.
Sorry, before Rachel closes, I just want to mention a few names. The first one is Andai from Guyana, who was very shocked, who was really the point of reference for the women that then Lori went and trained in homeopathy, and we've known her for many years. And she was terribly shocked when she found out about Lori, because she and I has been very, very ill for a very long time as a result of having chemotherapy for cancer in 1982 or 4, I can't remember, in the early 80s, really a long time ago. And although she survived the cancer, she then got very badly affected by the chemo over the years, because she was given much stronger chemo than they would give now. And she, I suppose, never expected that she was going to survive Lori, who was the person whom she consulted on Skype regularly. And she was very shocked. The other one is Maggie from Ireland, who again, Lori took care of her mother for many years. And again, her mother has survived Lori, largely as a result of the work that Lori did for her. So I wanted to mention her. And then Nikki and Laura and Carrie from the English Collective of Prostitutes. who often met on Skype with Rachel and Laurie about what was going on here with Us Pros and Legal Action for Women and any work that was jointly being done as the International Prostitutes Collective. And then Dee Dee and Dean, and Eric and Giorgio and Ariane and Sam, who I think all worked on the Chelsea Manning campaign. So I was very glad when you spoke about the whole Grand Marshal story. There was a whole contingent at the Women's Centre in London that was on those Skype meetings. And Laurie would report exactly what had happened and who was full of shit and who was better and who you could trust and who you couldn't. You know, and it was all very detailed and very exciting when it was won. It was a great victory. I still remember when they announced, yes, he's going to be Grand Marshal, and everybody was so excited. And in fact, Giorgio from Payday, we used to kind of make jokes about it because wherever Giorgio went, and he went to many meetings of all sorts, he would always mention Chelsea Manning. Giorgio would get up and make a little speech about Chelsea Manning, no matter what the hell the meeting was about. You know, it was just fantastic. And so when Chelsea Manning was finally freed, we all celebrated in London, as did people all around the world. And finally, I want to mention Anne from Wages Due Lesbians, one of the early ones who is still active in London in our campaign and who was also very shocked, and everybody really at the Women's Centre who was really shocked. And I'm really glad and thankful to have been part of this passing of Laurie all together so that we can properly thank her and appreciate what she did and remember her together and resolve together that we will carry on that work and that we need to do it with even more conviction, and we need more hands, basically, because one terrible thing, and in fact the first thing that crossed my mind when I heard it after the shock was, oh my God, Rachel has lost the main person that she could count on a day-to-day basis here in San Francisco. And that is a terrible blow for the campaigning work that you have heard about today. So please, if anybody's, you know, ready to pull even more weight than you're doing already, here's Rachel, who's our point of reference on the spot. And she's going to need all the help she can get in order to keep all this together. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and thank you all for your thoughtful and lovely, caring memories of Laurie. It was just wonderful, and we have a videotape of it, you know, for those that weren't here and want to know what people said about Laurie. And, you know, we're going to continue on. We'll never forget Laurie. You know, we'll have that picture at our Women's Centre and one here at Omni. And, yeah, I hope you all sign up. There's lots of work to do. And, you know, we're going to continue on with Laurie's presence with us. And Laurie presente. Laurie presente. Presente, presente. And there's food for people and chatting. Oh, no, yeah, a photo of everybody together would be lovely. No? Yeah? Up here. Thank you all.